Before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker, Nat Gruesen. Nat came to Galveston County Master Gardeners by way of the Fort Bend County Master Gardeners, where he became a Master Gardener in 2004. During his time as a Master Gardener, Nat has served as president of the Fort Bend program and acted as various team leads. Over the course of his career as a Master Gardener, he also took additional courses to become certified as a rainwater harvesting specialist by the Texas Master Gardener Association, and we are pleased to have him with us today. So once again, thank you all for joining us for today's seminar, Rainwater Harvesting. Nat, over to you.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Ginger. Yes, as Ginger said, I'm a transfer from Fort Bend County. And at that time when I was there, I took a rainwater harvesting specialist class from Billy Niffen. And that was in Menard County, so which is a much drier climate. So he really walked the walk and lived by that creed of rainwater harvesting and collecting water, and water is valuable. So I feel like I was very privileged to learn from him because he was very instrumental in my learning for this. So one of the, just basically the things that I want to cover is early rainwater harvesting. You know, rainwater harvesting has been around for eons, and you know, reasons of why it would be good to harvest the rainwater, and just some general cover some rainwater harvesting systems, and then briefly building a rain barrel. It's really pretty simple, and it can be as complex or simple as you want to make it, and we provided a handout for you so that you can build one if that's something you'd like to do. So the first point I guess I'd like to make is that, you know, all rainwater is valuable. And I can say after taking that certification class, I never thought about rainwater the same ever again. In fact, shortly after that, I was sitting at a dealership waiting for my car to be serviced, and just this torrential rain, it started raining, and it was just pouring down rain, and I could see all this water flowing across the parking lot, just going down the drain. And I just thought, what a waste that is, because now I think about rainwater differently, and how valuable it really is. I mean, rainwater recharges our aquifers and our streams and rivers. It filters through the soil and feeds the grasses and the trees that provide food for the wildlife, and, you know, provide water for our flowers and our gardens, which provide sustenance for the bees and the butterflies and all other types of insects. So it's really valuable. And I truly believe as master gardeners, one of the things that we need to do is be good stewards of that. And one of the keys is managing rainwater and rainwater collection. So with that, as I said just a minute ago, rainwater's been around, our rainwater collection harvesting has been around for a long time. You know, when we would meet in person, I would ask, okay, how many people look at this house and see a fixer-upper that's got potential, and how many just feel like a good breeze would blow this house down? But the reason I like this picture is because if you look just to the side of the house, you can see that cistern right there. And when we were settling, you know, our forefathers were settling the land, they had to have ways to have water for their needs, because there wasn't a municipal system or city water system. They weren't on, I mean, that's truly living off the grid probably. So rainwater and rainwater collection has been around for quite some time. I like to show this picture, and you know, I can tell I'm an adult now because, like, when I go to Disneyland or Epcot or whatever, when I was a kid, I would love to just, I was enthralled by the amusement rides there. And nowadays when I go, I look at the landscaping. So kind of in that same vein, I show this is obviously the state capitol, which was built in 1882 through, I think, 1888 it was finished. And I grew up in Austin. So one of the things that my mom would do, me and my friend, she'd give us a few dollars for the day. And, you know, that speaks to the times also, because that's when kids could roam around freely and not worry about, you know, somebody trying to hurt them. So we would catch the city bus, and we would go downtown and we would go to the Capitol and just explore all around the Capitol. We would go up in the dome. That tour guide probably got tired of us because we would take that tour 4 or 5 times every day. But and then at the end of the day, when we finish exploring, we've had our fill of exploring the Capitol. We would go play on the grounds, look at all the statues, and play in the water sprinklers, and then being soaking wet and get back on the bus and go home. But one of the things that I never noticed until I was an adult, and that's why I say I can tell I'm an adult now, because now that when my son was little, I gave him a tour of the Capitol and his scout troop. And I noticed this from this particular angle. If you look at the bottom, you can see this little, it looks like a stone with a sign next to it. And so here's what that is. And if you look at that, you see there's a placard right beside it. And so the placard basically describes that. It was a cistern that was one of the 2 underground reservoirs that was built to store rainwater for use of the Capitol. So they actually used it. They didn't just store it, they used it. So they used it as a source of fresh water, basically until the municipal water supply became available. But the rainwater was collected from the Capitol's roof through a system of gutters and filled the cisterns through a series of concealed downspouts and pipes. So, I just point this out. I never noticed that, but it's always been there. And obviously since the 1880s, it's been there and it's still there. So, everybody thinks rainwater harvesting, rainwater collection is this newfangled thing. And all these new subdivisions are popping up with touting their eco-friendly and green-friendly measures that they go to, but that is really nothing new. It's been around for a long time. So one of the things that I like to do, I guess, is sort of evangelize, become an evangelist of why we should harvest rainwater. Like I said, when I was sitting and waiting for my car to be ready for me, and I was just sitting there watching it rain and the rain go down the drain, one of the things that I like to do is just kind of raise the awareness of why it'd be good to harvest rainwater. I mean, it can save you some money, and reduce your water bill if you use that to like water if you have a little vegetable garden or a little flower garden out there, it would help with that. It would reduce the demand on municipal water supplies. If you think about it, we pay for water. We pay for very good, high quality water. And when you water your lawn, you're paying for that quality of water that you consume to go on the grass or in your garden. So if you can harvest some rainwater, that would help in that regard. And then also it would reduce the flooding and erosion. And then of course the contamination with the sediments and the fertilizers and pesticides that we all put on our lawns and gardens. So just a few things to think about. Like I said, in many areas, they think this is something newfangled. It's, oh, wow, this is the best thing since sliced bread, but it's been around for a long time. But I'm so happy to see that there is a renewed interest in collecting rainwater. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just happy to see it. But for some of the reasons is there is an increased demand and a decreasing supply. You can even see it kind of in this area, but even in more outlying areas, you're having increased construction and home building in areas that really don't have those amenities out there yet. So there's an increasing demand, but the supply isn't increasing along with it. And I have a slide that kind of demonstrates that. Of course, the escalating in environmental and economic cost. I know in Austin, they have water restrictions all the time because it just gets so dry there, and the economic cost to keep things green and lush when it's the dry time of the year, it just the costs are really high. Of course, there's health concerns, conservation and drought. I just kind of talked to that. The rainwater's purity, providing water to areas without water, and reducing stormwater, which to me is very near and dear to my heart. This picture is taken out my front door during one of our tropical storms. I don't even, well, it may not even been a tropical storm. So I guess if you try to look on the positive side, at least once a year, I can say I have waterfront property, but it's not something I'm really that happy with overall. I'm sitting on my front porch in this photo, and so it's looking across to the house across the street. What you cannot see is either the yards or even the street between us. So if everybody, just think if everybody in the subdivision or everybody in this area, or just if more and more people in general collected rainwater, we would have less runoff and less flooding. And I would sure be happy about that. So there we go. So just some of the uses, aside from collecting rainwater to prevent runoff, you can use it to attract and provide water for the wildlife and the birds. The picture on the left is out in the country. I took that. It's just a little lean-to that's built with a gutter on the low end to collect the water and puts it in a barrel to provide a water trough for the deer. And you can see the deer in that photo if you squint your eyes and look close. And then the other is at the Lady Bird Wildflower Center in Austin. The picture on the right is just a little water interest, but it just sounds so soothing as you're walking into the grounds, and it's very welcoming sound. So you can use it for practical purposes like feeding the wildlife and the insects and the birds, or you can use it for more recreational use or aesthetics. And then some other uses. Like I said, I took this class with Billy Nissen, and he was, I'm sure he's retired by now, but he was the county extension agent in Menard County. And so one evening he invited us over to his home, and he showed us these little drippers that he had made just from some old farm implements, and the birds just love that. And all it does is just from some rainwater storage tanks that he has, he collects the rainwater, and then it's pumped through here, and it provides this little bird bath. And then he also has a pond that he's created, and it's all created through the use of rainwater. So like I said, rainwater can be used to provide water for any type of water feature you have. You can have a pond or a stream or just a little bubbler here. But it can be 98 degrees outside, and if you're sitting outside and hearing the water, it makes it seem, even though it's really not, it makes it seem a lot cooler and a lot more refreshing out there. So again, one of my goals is to just raise awareness about water collection and water in Texas in general. We're very lucky to live on the Gulf Coast, so we have a lot of water, and at times more water than we probably need. But not all areas of Texas is like that. They have limited water supply, but their population is still, just going gangbusters and exploding. And in some cases, rainwater harvesting is the only source of water that they have. And water is not always going to be inexpensive. Right now, it's still fairly inexpensive for those amenities, but it's not always going to be the case. This is another, I know this is from 2011, the Labor Day fires in Bastrop County, in Bastrop State Park. It's kind of near and dear to me. I had 20 acres, not too far from there. But I like to keep it in here because it is kind of a benchmark that is still measured against, and it's still one of the largest events for that area. It was the driest year ever recorded in Texas. We had the hottest year ever recorded that year. And I believe, although it's not listed here, it was the most consecutive days with temperatures exceeding 100 degrees. So that created about a $7 billion loss in agriculture and $3 billion loss in cattle, $2 billion loss in cotton, and 500 million trees were lost. So, and that was due to the most wildfires that year as well. 400 million acres were burned and about 4,000 structures. Thankfully, I was still just a few miles beyond the reaches of this fire. Otherwise, it would have personally impacted me. I'll skip this slide. I don't know if this is still the current drought condition, but the last time I gave this presentation, it was. So one of the things I do like to show is this slide for Galveston, which is probably Galveston or Houston, depending on where you live. We get anywhere from 42 to 48 inches of rainfall a year on average. And that's a very generous amount. If you look kind of in Austin, where I'm, like I said, I was from, they only get 33 inches of rain a year. So that's a significantly less amount of rainfall. And usually in July, August, September, those are the hottest months for Austin. So rainwater harvesting would really be beneficial for people in that area. But here we can do it freely. And another thing I kind of wanted to raise your awareness on, even though it's not here, in all states, it's not legal to collect rainwater. Like in Colorado, even though they get exorbitant amounts of snow, they're not allowed to collect the rainwater because that would disrupt the flow to their fields and streams. So it's not allowed there, but here it is. And here we get lots of rain. So there's really no reason we shouldn't be doing it or be thinking about that. So this slide basically just shows that the cost of electricity is going up, but if you look at the cost of water, it's going up at a much higher growth rate. So it's going up a lot faster. And, this again is showing the population growth. So with the population growth, again, they're building homes in outlying areas that don't necessarily, they're going to have to get water out to those areas to do that. But the building and the population is not keeping, or the water is not keeping up with that. So again, just this slide just kind of reinforces what I just said, that the demand is starting to outstrip the supply for water. And by, by 2030, 2040, it's really going to start becoming more pronounced. We're already there, really. But this just kind of graphically shows that. So the benefits of rainwater, thank you for asking, is the quality. It's low in minerals. It flushes the salts out of the plant root zone, and it's low in chlorine and fluorides as opposed to city water. So this is a picture from my property. This is one of the ways that I collect rainwater harvesting. I know a lot of you think about having a catchment system off your roof, but this is at the bottom of a it's kind of a hill, for lack of a better word, but it's a slope, and this is at the back of the property. And so anytime it rains, the water typically runs into a dry creek bed, but I'm able to catch some of that before it goes there. And the wildlife like that. So I have a ton of deer on my property because of this pond. But this is one of the ways that you could do that if you were to have property. Or even on a suburban lot, if you have a low spot in your area, you can funnel the water to one specific area there and build a rain garden. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So some of the uses, more uses is just a wildlife or pet watering system. That a little lean-to with a storage tank there. That's probably just like an 8x6 or 9x6. And it probably provides about 30, 40 gallons right there. And same for the donkey. I like that picture of the donkey. That's on my neighbor's property. But he's kind of doing the same thing with a larger storage tank. And here's the rainwater, the rain garden that I was talking about. This property is kind of graded, and they would get water in this part of the yard all of the time. And it's kind of a situation of making lemonade out of lemons. They would always have water in that particular area, could never mow if it was, it would take a long time. And so they planted vegetation that liked to have their feet wet and would help filter the water as it went down in the soil. And it gave a place the water to go, and just made a lovely little garden there. And now they don't have, it's not a hazard. It's not a frustration to them anymore. So that's another way that you can collect rainwater and make it into something that's useful and functional, as well as aesthetically pleasing. Again, I can tell I'm all grown up because instead of looking at the buildings or whatever I'm doing, I'm looking for things like this. And so sometimes if I find them, I'll go back and I will take pictures of it. The Hometown Heroes Park, the building there, they put a water tank in. They have a collection system built up so that they can collect the rainwater there, and they use that probably for a drip system for the landscaping around the building. So anywhere I go nowadays, I'll look for that. This is just right down the road here from the extension office at Tanger Outlets. One time I was walking up to it, and if you look at the slide on the left, you can just barely see it. And they do try to conceal it, but it was open enough that it just caught my eye. And I was like, what is that? So I went to check it out, and lo and behold, and then I noticed that there were like 9 or 10 of these tanks. I think they're 1,500-gallon tanks. And they use that for the landscaping water, keeping the landscaping water around the mall. So I thought that was really nice to see that, especially again, since we get so much rain in our area, is putting it to good use. So how does it work? Of course, we have to have the rain, and then it has to fall on something. And then a way to catch that, and a way to route it to where we want to store it, and then obviously some sort of storage receptacle for that. So here, and this was taken at the county extension office at the grounds there, but that's the back porch, I guess. So you need a collection surface, which is the roof. That one's in particular at the time was 15 by 30. So that's 450 square feet. You need a transport system. So we did that with the gutter, and we routed that right into the rain barrel. So some of you may be asking, well, how do I know how big of a barrel I need, or a big tank I need? How do I figure all of that out? So there is a formula. It's basically the catchment area times the rainfall amount. And then there's a conversion ratio that you have to use of 0.623. I can't quite remember why that is. So, but like in this picture, the 12 by 16 lean-to there is 192 square feet. So you take that amount, and just for example, just hypothetically, we'll say it was 1/4 inch of rainfall. So 192 square feet times the 1/4 inch of rain that you got times the conversion factor, you'll collect 29, just under 30 gallons of water with a 1/4 inch of rain on just that little bit of roofing. So it adds up pretty fast. That's why I really kind of feel like I'm evangelizing rainwater collection, because it really doesn't take much. Just a 12 by 16 can get you 30 gallons of water, and that'll go a long way, really, when you think about it. So just as a quick reference, I can probably see some of you, if we were all in person, I could see you probably the little squirrels turning the wheels. Okay, how big is my roof? Or how big is my house? How big is my roof? So that you can figure out what your needs are. So just a quick reference table here, 1,000 square feet. you would get approximately 550 gallons of water with 1 inch of rain. So that's, let's see, if you have about a 2,000 square foot roof, you get 1,100 gallons. So that would fill up almost, or significantly fill up those black storage tanks at Tanger Outlet that we just saw with 1 inch of rain. So like I was saying, you know, your rain catchment system can be as complex or simple as you want it. For this diagram, it's still a fairly simple system, but you know, they just sort of tag teamed or attached each of these. So as one barrel fills, it'll overflow and fill the next barrel, and that'll fill up, and then that'll overflow and fill the next barrel. So again, you need a collection area, transport system. Rain barrels, if you had to purchase them, it would probably be anywhere from $80 to $130 unless you can get those donated. And then to build it and get it all built and installed, it'd probably be about $25, $50, maybe $50 in parts to get it all set up. Of course, these were probably pre-pandemic prices, so I'm not sure now. I think this was at Lowe's. One time I went out and I just saw they had these rain barrels. So I just, you know, I take pictures. Again, I'm a geek, but that's what I do now. So they had a 60-gallon rain barrel for $119 and a 50-gallon rain barrel for $80. And as you can see, they come in a variety of shapes and styles and colors. So let's talk a bit about rain barrel, building a rain barrel. I'm hoping to develop a companion course to this once the pandemic eases up. Excuse me, and we can do this in person. I would really like to have a class on rain barrel construction. But to build one, all you need is a power drill, a 3/4 inch paddle drill bit, and a 2-inch hole saw, a 6-inch hole saw, or a jigsaw, and a caulking gun. That's all you need. So you also need a barrel, obviously. We always recommend that it's a food grade barrel, food grade plastic. If you're using the 55-gallon barrels, that's just to make sure it's had no chemicals in it, no pesticides, that it's a clean barrel. There's your 1/2-inch hose bib and 1.5-inch PVC male adapter and electrical nut there, and 1.5-inch PVC elbow. You'll need some screen material once you cut a hole in the top that'll keep the mosquitoes out and a lot of other debris. And then you'll need a sealant so that you can seal all of your connections there. So to prepare the barrel, you obviously need to wash it and remove any residue from inside. You'll construct the water outlet, which I usually do that first. So in order to do that, you'll drill a hole for the hose bib with a 3/4 inch drill bit, and then you'll thread the hose bib into the hole. Construct the rainwater inlet and overflow. So to do that, you'll cut an inlet, a hole with a 6-inch hole saw or jigsaw. So you'll cut that in the top, and then you'll drill an overflow hole fairly high on the barrel towards the top on the side with a hole saw. And then you'll use sealant again when you're making those connections so that you're screwing those fittings into the barrel. You need a tight seal there. So here's a picture of one. Again, it's just a very simple one. Can they see my cursor, Ginger?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not really a good picture or a good view, but you can see the downspout coming into the top of the rain barrel. You have your overflow at the top, and then you have your water spigot or your hose bib right there. So obviously, I guess they're connecting the hose on the other side of the fence. So they put an extender on there, which you don't necessarily have to do that. So like I said, you can make this as simple or as complex as you want. The trash can water, you can just get a 20 or 50 gallon trash can and convert that into, you know, a brand new one, of course, and convert that into a rain barrel. And the diagram's there, and we'll provide that for you. That's included as the extra handout, this diagram with the instructions. For something that, for those of you that maybe want something a little more aesthetically pleasing, I mean, you can get a fancy whiskey cask or something like that, or a wine barrel. Make it out of anything. One of the things to take into consideration is this: if you're going to elevate your rain barrel to have it take advantage of the gravity, you're going to need to support that. So just try to remember that a 55-gallon barrel of water weighs about 450 pounds. So you have to support it with something substantial enough to be able to bear that weight. In this photo, obviously they were using cinder blocks and concrete paver there. I've seen the use of this with the water tows, particularly like with landscaping companies. They'll have these water totes on the back of their trailers as they go by and irrigate all the landscaping. They can be used for rainwater harvesting as well. Just something to think about. They'll hold about anywhere from 275 to 300 gallons. And a used tote tank, you know, a clean one, can cost as low as $100, maybe $150, depending on where you can find them. If anybody has a good source for that, please let me know, especially the rain barrels too, those blue 55-gallon ones. I'm looking for sources so I can conduct the build a rain barrel class. So here's a friend that did one all her own. So she was very proud of herself. All she did was cut the gutter up at this height and then reconnect the end piece on that so that it flowed into the rain barrel. She has a water spigot down here. She used a water spigot kind of as her overflow. So I'm assuming that eventually she's wanting to make a series of rain barrels there, if I remember right. But as you can see, it's not that hard. And she just set it on the corner of her house. So just some uses. You can even just use open containers that it flows from the roof. Here, I guess because on this corner, the way the roof is pitched, it just tends to flow over and right down into this barrel. So you can do it that way as well. If you have that particular issue or problem, because I know when water flows over in corners like that, it can dig kind of gouges into the soil, and then it'll erode the soil there. Here's one where they tried to, I guess they bought a pre-made one, but they painted it so that the rain barrel is the same color as the shutters and the trim. And that's another thing, I guess, a point that I'll make right now is particularly like if you have something on the front of your home or where it's visible from the street, to make sure that you do comply with your homeowners association rules and restrictions, because you don't want to get in a bind with your homeowners association. You always want to stay in good standing there. And if anything, I would say displaying it in this manner kind of makes you an ambassador for rainwater collection, because I know where I live, everybody knows I'm a master gardener. Almost wish they didn't, because they're constantly coming and asking me questions. And I have since learned to embrace that. Before, I sort of felt like I lived in an aquarium or something. Everybody was watching me. But, you know, when you start doing things intentionally and with purpose, like it's done here with this rain barrel, people want to know, and they'll come and ask you. And that's when you get a chance to say, hey, well, do you know about all the benefits of rainwater harvesting and how good rainwater truly is? And they'll stop and listen. Okay, this is one of the things I'm guilty of. And one of the things that you can do is your air conditioner water. For your overflow, you can recover that. And believe it or not, there is a lot of moisture coming out of our HVAC systems. A house can produce 20 gallons a day, depending on the unit size and the weather conditions, how hot it is, whether the house is shaded, I guess. My neighbor's house, just on the other side of my driveway, we have a little sliver of grass between my driveway and his house, and his overflow comes out of the attic, I guess, and just drips right on his lawn right there. So I'll go stick a bucket under there and collect all that water. He knows I'm doing it, but I mean, it takes no time at all to fill that bucket. It's really surprising. And like I say, here at Rice University captures over 12 million gallons a year from their building air conditioners. That's impressive. But here, all I've done here is just kind of reroute the plumbing so that they can catch that. And it comes down into this barrel, and then they can put it into containers where they can, it's more portable and they can transport the water around. So how many of you recognize this building? It doesn't look like this anymore. But, we try to practice what we preach here as well. At the time, it was a catchment area of 1,000 square feet, so we could store 3,000 gallons. So 1 inch of rainfall would yield 600 gallons of water. That is, we've since all the structures changed and everything. So I'm not quite up to date on what that would be currently. Here, this again, I grew up in Austin. So this, I'm proud to say, is my alma mater of my elementary school. So I'm happy to see that they are collecting the rainwater off the school roof. And then all of that overflow, they have a little rain garden right there. So they do have like raised beds for all the little kids there that have their own little vegetables. I guess they do square foot gardening on these raised beds. And so every student has their own little patch, and they use that rainwater for that. And then any excess just flows into this bed, this rain garden bed. Again, this is in Austin at the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. So this is one of the first things that you see when you walk in, is this cistern. And of course, they made it all beautiful with Texas Hill Country limestone and everything. But they collect about 300,000 gallons a year using this system, and it irrigates about 10 or 15% of their site, their grounds, from my conversations with the stewards there. And it's really pretty. If you ever get a chance to travel to Austin, I would recommend going to see this. Not only because of the rainwater catchment system and the cisterns, but just how well the grounds, they're beautiful grounds, and how well, what a great job that they've done in public awareness for native plants. Okay, this is out in the hill country. This farmer uses rainwater for his irrigation, so he created what he called a farm tank, or a tank farm, excuse me. So he had 3 tanks here, and then he had some, this is kind of his main area. He has it under kind of an open barn where he collects all of his rainwater. But, we don't all have a farm. We're not all farmers. We're not all ranchers. So you can do something even on a smaller scale. You can put a series of storage tanks behind your garage if you have the space. I know I have a detached garage, so there is a little bit of room between the back of my garage and my back fence. So this would be perfect for my situation, where you could connect a series of barrels together and then use that for your irrigation. And then this particular picture, if you can see down here at the bottom, they've set up a pump to help provide some water pressure for their irrigation using the rainwater. So again, just some of the basic parts of it. You have your downspout, which is your way to transport your water. You have your overflow. And then as each of these barrels fill, they're connected in a series so that one will fill and then it overflows into the other and fills that one, and so on and so forth. Again, just a variety of rain barrels and rain barrel systems. You can just use a 55-gallon drum. You can put them in a series. You can put them in a tote to lug it around, or you can just have one barrel at the corner of your house. So if you have the area and the space to have large water tanks, did some investing. Again, these are pre-COVID prices. So the largest is a 2,500-gallon tank. That was about $1,189, $1,190 back then. But the 305-gallon, which is this one, I believe, it was $329. And, you know, I could see that depending on what your homeowner's restrictions are, if perhaps it had to be out of sight or something like that. But I could see this in a suburban setting, potentially. So the benefits of having rain barrels is you can do whatever you want to do with them and be as creative as you want to be. I know at that elementary school, they had a little contest with their art class students, so they could paint them and decorate them however they wanted to. And, you know, a lot of people think you can't paint plastic, but you really can. All you need to do is, you know, kind of make sure it's clean, obviously, and lightly sand it. And then if you put a primer on it for plastic, which they have nowadays, that'll help keep the paint adhered to the barrel, the plastic. So just a couple of examples here. On this one, is painted a tan or khaki color so it matched the trim of the house. And then on this one, obviously they got really creative and, you know, painted a design on it. So again, here's where an art class had kind of a, I guess, a contest where, I mean, so every one of them was painted different. I mean, they can get as wild, as creative as you want, as your imagination can go. So here, I kind of like this one because it looks like there's a, I mean, the barrel's blue, so it's the color of the water, and then the octopus is painted on there, so it looks like it's in the barrel. I like that. Or if you want to be sneaky and really stealth, you could make it, they make them where they look like, you know, natural stones, and you could place that in your landscaping. So, and it comes in a variety of colors, the light granite, the sandstone, the dark. So whatever color you need, I'm sure they have it for you and make it look a little more natural. Okay, you know, you may not always want to collect rainwater. There may be times you want the water to divert the water, or there be times when you do want to collect the rainwater, so you need to divert it into the barrel. So basically what this is you would just put this at the end of your gutter, and then there's a little valve or lever that you can pull to divert the water so that it can either go into the barrel or it can go elsewhere where you would like it to go. One of the things that you do have to consider are insects, and in particular for our area, is mosquitoes, because they'll just carry you off. So you don't want to be a breeder of mosquitoes, right? So they have mosquito dunks, which doesn't affect the water. One ring would protect 100 square feet of water surface for 30 days. So the water surface in a rain barrel is about 3 square feet. So part of one of these would last you for a good number of days. So that's pretty much my presentation. I do have some resources here that also will be provided for you when Ginger sends out this presentation slides. So those will be available to you, but there's some resources from the AgriLife bookstore on rainwater barrel plans, rainwater harvesting calculator, if you wanted to get really technical on that. And then there is a Texas manual on rainwater harvesting. So be sure and look some of these up because they are very helpful. And I'm glad to have been able to present this to you today. And let me also, some of the resources that I found, you may know of others, or you may know of other resources that I'm not aware of. So if you want to share that, just pass it along. But for barrels, there's JC Imports on Highway 6 in Alvin. Baytech Containers, they're in Baycliff on Highway 146. And there's plastic drums that are clean, and those cost about $40. Hardware stores like Lowe's and Home Depot, obviously I had a couple of slides there in that. Chemo Hardware on 146 also had some. And there's one other place I can't think of right now, but Tractor Supply has those as well. So those are just some of the resources there. And then I'll end with a quote from Benjamin Franklin that when the well is dry, we learn the worth of water. So I just thought that was very fitting for this presentation, because as our water resources are having more and more demands, and weather patterns are changing, and water is becoming more and more scarce, we are now learning the worth of water. So I hope this presentation has been helpful to you, and that you were able to take something away. So thank you very much.